today's video, we're going to be doing an unboxing review of Makita's 18-volt DJV184Z Jigsaw. So I just recently picked up a new jigsaw from Makita. I got it on a bundle deal where when you purchase the 5 amp hour with the rapid charger, you get a free tool. So I picked the jigsaw because I needed to replace my old one. So we're going to be doing just a quick unboxing and review of how this jigsaw works. We're going to be using it with a 3 amp hour battery as well as a 5 amp, and we're going to see how it cuts. So diving in. So inside the box, it's very basic. You've got your jigsaw. You get a free set of 3 blades and your instructions. So first impressions of the overall design and size of the jigsaw, it is pretty comparable to the DeWalt or the Milwaukee. The biggest difference is the connection for the battery. With the Makita, it's going to go underneath the handle, and it's pretty evenly weighted when you do pick it up here. It's not very heavy on the bottom. I feel like it's distributing the weight across evenly, compared to previous versions where the battery will be on the back of the handle. So we're going to pop open the blades here. We've got a wood blade, a metal blade, and a bi-metal blade. So we're going to throw the wood blade in here first. So to install the blade, it is fairly easy. On the inside here, you're just going to line it up and push it in, and it locks itself into place. To remove it, you're just going to push here in order to release the blade. So let's reinstall this. And now it's in position here. So unlike some other versions, the speed control is not controlled here by the trigger. There's actually a speed control here on the rear. So you can adjust from 1 all the way up to 5. On the top here, this is your lock. So when you put in the battery, if you don't hit this to unlock the device, it's not going to work. And you do have a trigger lock here. So if you're making a longer cut, you can set up the jigsaw on, lock the trigger, and then make your large cut without having to hold the trigger depressed. So when we install our battery, like I said, because we haven't unlocked the jigsaw, it's not working. When you click here, you'll see the light will light up, and it's now on. We'll drop it down to a 1 speed, and you can adjust while on here. We've got our lock here, like we said, so we'll start it. And to release the lock, you just tap down on the trigger and it'll release the trigger lock here, and the jigsaw will shut off. So finally on the front here, you have the adjustment for the orbital setting. So we're gonna drop the jigsaw down into a 1 speed, and we'll see if you can catch us on the camera. So that's with no orbital rotation. And as we adjust to the max, you can see here, it's also pushing the blade forward. So this would be, if you want to do max cutting here, the fastest, but you will end up with a lot of chip out if you run it like that. So if you're looking for a smoother cut and you're not in a super fast rush, you can leave it with no orbital rotation and run the device. So let's take a jump in now, and we're going to test out the jigsaw. We're going to start with the 3 amp hour, and then we'll switch over to the 5, and we'll see if there's a big performance difference. So to start, we're going to be using some 1/2" material. We're going to see how the jigsaw cuts through it, and then we're going to do a rip and see how it does with the rip. We also have a 2x4, and then we're going to switch over to the 5 amp. We're going to do the same test, see how it performs with the 5 amp. As well as we're going to switch to a bi-metal blade, stick a couple 3-inch screws in the 2x4 and see how it cuts through those. So we're going to start with the 1/2" material, and we're going to see how this cuts through. So we'll turn our lock off. So it did pretty good with the 1/2 inch here, but what we're going to do is stack 2 pieces together and we're going to see how it cuts with the 2 pieces. So again, it did pretty good with the 2 pieces stacked together. What we're going to do now is do a rip test on this board, and then we'll test the 2x4. So to run the rip test, we're just going to check where our battery is at. So we started on 4 bars, and we're at 3 right now. We're going to take a little test now and see how this rips. So that was pretty good. I did have to give it a bit more force to go through. What we're going to do now is do the same, but we're going to move it to the orbital, and we'll see how it does with the orbital rotation. So with the jigsaw, with the orbital rotation on, that ripped through it extremely fast, and I didn't need to apply any extra pressure. But again, the cut is a little bit rougher here. If you're using it on a fine material but you're doing a longer cut, you do want to be careful, like I mentioned, to make sure that you're not getting an extreme amount of blowout. So we're going to switch over to the 2x4. I'm going to leave it at max rotation, and we'll see how it does. Doing all those cuts, we'll take a look here, and our battery is still at 3 bars. So let's switch over to the 5 amp and we'll see how it does. So we're back with the 5 amp hour battery. Again, we're starting on full, so we're going to see how this performs. We're going to do about the same amount of cuts that we did on the 3 amp. So we'll start with a smaller 1/2 inch piece. We'll do the stacked piece. We'll do a couple rips with the orbital rotation and without it, and then we'll see how it does with the 2x4. So with the 5 amp hour battery, it made light work of that 1/2 inch material. Again, we've got 2 pieces now stacked, and we'll see how it does. Again, it did pretty good there. I didn't have to push too hard. Let's try on the ripping. So we're going to do 2 rip passes, one without any orbital rotation and one with it, and we'll see how it does. So that was pretty easy. We'll switch over and we'll see now how it does with some orbital rotation. So as you can see with the 5 amp hour, that ripped through with no problem, and I didn't need to apply any additional force. All right, and let's see how it's going to do here with the 2x4. We're going to take off the orbital rotation and we'll see. So you did need to apply a bit of force here to have it cut through. Let's try it with orbital rotation on. It's as smooth as butter. So what we're going to do for the final test is we're going to switch the blade out to the bimetal, and we're going to cut through the 2x4 with a screw, and then we're going to cut through the 2x4 with 4 screws and see how this does. So again, you're just going to push up on your release, your blade will come out. We'll stick in our new blade. We're locked in, we're just going to test. We're good to go. So unfortunately, the one screw, the bimetal blade, is not cutting through it. So what we're going to do is we're on top of the screw. We're going to switch to the metal blade and see if it'll go through. Again, we've got enough power here, but I think the problem may be the blades because I've already started to eat away some of the teeth. So let's pop this blade out. We're in. And we're going to give this a shot here. So the cutting through the metal definitely was a fail here, but I'm going to contribute this to the blades because again, the teeth on this metal blade are completely shot now. The Jigsaw definitely has enough power. After fighting and doing all those cuts, looking at this 5 amp, we're still at 4 bars here. So I think this Jigsaw has more than enough power to do the cuts here, but I think you would need a better blade to cut through screws and nails. So now after performing roughly the same amount of cuts as well as trying to cut through metal multiple times, we can see our 5 amp hour is still full. So let's go inside and I'll give you some kind of final thoughts on this Jigsaw. So now after running multiple cutting tests using the 3 amp hour and the 5 amp hour, I do have to say this Jigsaw definitely has more than enough power and is capable of cutting through pretty thick wood without a lot of fight. If you need to cut through something a bit thicker and you need the extra power, I would recommend again throwing it in the max orbital rotation here. But your cut is going to have a bit of blowout, so it really depends on what you're cutting. Again, with it not being able to cut through those screws, I'm going to contribute that to the blade. Using the 5 amp hour, it had definitely more than enough power, but I don't think the blades were strong enough to cut through those screws. Really, the only negative feedback I've had while using it is the lock here. I did forget multiple times to click down the lock here before I went to use it, where the other models I'm used to have the lock here, so you can just apply pressure with your finger here and click the blade down with no issue. But that's just my personal preference here. All in all, I definitely would recommend this if you're on the platform or if you're getting the bundle deal here. So I got mine from Home Depot, $198 for the 5 amp hour with the rapid charger, and the Jigsaw came free. If you found this review useful or you have any additional questions, leave me a comment, like, and subscribe.